Hello, darlings. Good evening on this fairly pleasant Tuesday evening in late July. I am. What's that coming up there? Yeah. I am excited to be giving this live this evening. Yeah, and to dive into the topic of how do we stay with that creative project, that idea, that goal, that dream, when we are feeling like we just want to give up, put it down. All the mind is coming in with so many, to be honest, incredibly not unique ideas, beliefs, stories around what we're doing, around our talent, comparing ourselves with others. It's taking too long. It's not going as we planned. It's shit. Who the hell do I think I am? What's the point? And so on, and so on, and so on. So, if you're watching this after the live recording, then do say hello. And let me know if any of that already sounds familiar to you. Yeah, is that something that you struggle with as a creative being, no matter what that is, whether that's relationship, whether that's building up your business, you're a creative entrepreneur, whether you're an artist that's working on a particular project, it doesn't matter. We are all quite similar in how we are made up as human beings, and the creative process is really, well, it's one of the biggest things that I work with as a creative genius life coach. It's one of the main things that clients come to me to work with, to help them to stay with. What happens when the usual ways that perhaps we've looked for motivation are not working for us anymore, when we're losing interest, when we're feeling flat, when we're feeling bored, when something else new and shiny has come along to grasp our attention, when we're just distracted a lot and full of procrastination. Let's start from the very beginning here. There are three parts to the creative process, three kind of active parts of the creative process. Beginnings, the middly bit, and endings. And really what I am talking about today, and what we're going to dive into, and to look at some of the secret things that can really support you to stay with what it is that you are doing, tend to be about the middle part of the creative process. Hello, darling. Good to see you. Welcome. Yeah, do say hello when you join. It's really lovely to know who I'm speaking to here. So, and beginnings of creative process tend to be quite, not for everybody, but for a lot of us quite easy, because we're excited. We've got this spark of an idea. So we're kind of fueled at the beginning of the creative process by the sense of newness. Something is fresh, we haven't done this before, it has so much potential. It's a little bit like having the blank canvas in front of us. Yes, for some of us, getting started is where we stumble, and I will explore this in a different live in another time. But for many of us, that bit's okay. There's not so much pressure on ourselves, and we're quite happy just to start, just to see what happens. Endings, similar thing. When we get to a particular place where we can see a finish line, we've done all the work, we're ready to lay down our tools, whatever it is we've been using to build this particular dream, this idea, this project, and we can see the ending is coming. We might be coated in blood, sweat and tears at this point, but now suddenly there is a light there at the end of the tunnel. However, it is the bit in the middle that so many of us hang up those tools, close down our laptops, put the copy of what it is we're working on away in the drawer, give up on a business that we've been ploughing through for however long that might be, and go, oh well, it didn't work. Do you know what? So I've been really interested in this topic of what happens when we're kind of lacking in motivation and the usual things aren't working and the old stories are coming up for us. And part of that, just being really transparent, is, some of you know, really committing to my business as a creative genius life coach has been my focus for this year. Yes, I've been doing this work for many, many years. I love it. I'm incredibly good at it. Got some amazing clients, amazing successes. And yet it's all been a bit like this. So this year I decided to really step up and to commit to growing a thriving business. And yet I keep coming up against, and I did so last weekend, hence this inquiry. As I always say, a lot of things that I'm offering to you are very living inquiries in my own self as a creative being. What do we do when the motivation isn't there? What do I do? Where can I turn to when the usual ways that I might look to support that don't seem to be working? And actually I put a question out, and some of you might have seen this in this group on my personal page on Facebook, been talking about this with friends. And some of the things that have been coming up are really fascinating and actually do correlate with these 5 secrets for staying with our projects, which I'm going to share with you this evening. However, first of all, I want to share this, which I was amazed by. I was thinking to myself that I wonder what the percentage is, the numbers of people who give up, whether it's businesses, projects, and so on. Because we hear about the people that succeed, and maybe we're very much inspired, maybe you know them, maybe you are one of them. But obviously we don't hear about the people that gave up. So I thought maybe it's about 80%. I know it's quite high. No. Within the first few weeks or few months of beginning, getting involved and immersed in a creative project, a business, an idea, within the first few weeks and months, are you ready for this? 92% of people, according to research, give up. 92. Which means that only 8% of those people that have started something continue on until the end. That blows my mind. It blows my mind. It's like, wow, what has happened here? What's happened to those people to make them stop? What were they missing? And you know, I have to kind of say before I really get into this topic that, you know, sometimes maybe we have to stop and give up. Maybe there's things that are going on in our personal lives that need tending to. Maybe we have duties and responsibilities that suddenly have gathered pace or speed that we need to give more of our time and energy to. So we're kind of pausing the thing that we'd like to be doing. But probably for most of those people, most of that 92%, something happened which made them go, nah, this isn't for me. Nah, this isn't going anywhere. Nah, I give up. And I don't want that to be for you. I don't want that to be for myself either. So as I say, I've been exploring this and also researching and talking to other people, and I've come up with these 5 tools I want to share with you today, alongside some questions that you can take away to reflect upon, maybe even answer into the comments below. So as always, I do invite your voice here. So if you're watching this now, please do add any thoughts about things that are coming up for you. If you are watching this later on the replay, again, please let me know in the comments below what is arising for you. But first of all, just to ask you, is there something familiar? Do you give up on things? Have you given up on things? Is it something that you know you struggle with, that kind of middle bit of a creative project when the excitement's worn off, the end is, we can't even imagine being anywhere near the end, and we're in that middle bit. The thing is, and that has been said before, isn't it? Like kind of genius and success and mastery over anything, is it something like 5% inspiration and 95% perspiration? Essentially, the middle bit is where we get down and do the work. It's very much like that kind of spiritual idea. If you have enlightenment and then you go about your life chopping wood, carrying water, you just get on with the everyday tasks, kind of mundane, ordinary life. And a lot of that is very tedious. A lot of that is very routine. A lot of that is without reward, without being seen, without the celebration, without the accolades, perhaps, without the, it's kind of, when we think about our dreams and when we're going for a lot of these goals, one of the things that's really helpful to begin with is having this sense of what that looks like at the end. This thriving business, this particular home, this relationship, this art gallery exhibition, and that's great. And this is actually a difference between a dream and actually really going for something. A dream is very passive. When we start to really be disciplined and to make a commitment to something, commitment in itself is a verb, it's an action. It's like love. Love is a verb. It's not something wishy-washy. It has action and care and time given into it. So, what is the reason why we suddenly lack that motivation? Well, if our initial fuel, as I say, was excitement, something new and shiny, that obviously is only going to last a certain amount of time. Other common things that can happen, and maybe this is something that's familiar to you. We get stuck. Perhaps we're in this lovely flow, things are just exploding with ideas and possibilities, and then we hit something challenging. We don't know what to do next. Now, if we have this creative way of thinking, then we can see this as an opportunity to problem solve. Having a creative, flexible, open, curious mind will allow us to go, okay, so this usual way of coming at this isn't working for me this time. Can I pause? Can I take a step back? Can I just shift around this thing? Look at it from another angle, turn it upside down, shake it out a little bit. Maybe I can find a way just to get things moving again and discover something new as I do. But again, for many of us, when we come up against something where we feel stuck, we can just keep going at this like we're hitting our head against a brick wall. Nothing is happening because we're just doing the same thing, and we give up. Another thing that can stop us is that it's very slow. Progress is slow. And we're not very patient, are we? Because we live in a society that values speed, productivity, being the thing you're given a slap on the back for. Well done. It's making me think of people that work in Aldi. I remember years ago kind of reading about this, that they have to be really fast. They have to have a certain number of customers that they serve over the hour, and they get either rewarded on that or not. So there's none of that quality of the time, the care for the moment. So if something is taking its time, then we can see that as a sign that it's not working, and that isn't the case. Last week I attended a book launch of a really lovely dear friend of mine. I was so proud of her. And her book took her 10 years to write. 10 years. And that included doing her MA in creative writing as a part of those 10 years to write this book. 10 years. How easy it would be to give up before that, wouldn't it? People would be like, oh my God, even after 1 year I've had enough, this is not working. So patience is a big thing. There's another author, isn't there? It's Susanna York, who wrote one of my favourite books ever, which is, I think it's Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell. It's all about magic in Victorian times. There's loads of research in it. They even made it into, I think it was a BBC series a few years ago. I think that book took her 10 years, and then it was another 10 years before her next book, her second book, came out, Piranesi, which I have to admit I started reading it. I might have to go back to it at some point. 10 years later, and she's in her 70s. You hear about people who go and study art or writing degrees or put themselves through something new when they're in their 80s or 90s. Because why not? So a lot of this, I haven't got time, I'm too old. Oh, I haven't done it by now, so I'm not going to. Excuses. These can be excuses that the mind tells us that stops us from continuing something that's got this aliveness for us, that interests us, that's calling to us. Maybe we've fallen out of love with the thing that we're doing. Maybe we need to find a way to fall back in love. It's interesting when I think about that, because we're in a relationship to every aspect of life, and even in a relationship with our partners. So those of you that are, are partnered up, maybe been married a long time, are you feeling love for your partner all the time? I guarantee the answer is no. Probably sometimes they really, really fucking annoy you. Irritated, maybe you just don't like them for a while. Does that mean we throw them away? For some people, yes. But generally, if there's a deeper love there, the deeper care and connection, there's a respect for the relationship, where you know that you're kind of meant to be together, you see your relationship as a spiritual practice, I'm not talking about any kind of negative things going on, then maybe it's just about, okay, what's happened? Have I stopped appreciating this person? Have I stopped seeing this person? Spending time to really talk to them, to get to know who they are today? What is it that I need to do in order to fall in love with this person? And this is a practice. And it's a continuous question. And this happens for many of us in relationship. We don't just throw it away because we're suddenly not feeling that same feeling again. Perhaps we go into inquiry as to, well, how? How do I find my way back into that feeling of love? It's a very beautiful inquiry to have in all aspects of our life. Existential doubt coming in. Well, who the hell do I think I am? What the hell do I think I'm doing? I can't do this. I'm not talented. I'm no good. Not like them over there. What's the point of this? Am I wasting my life, my time? This is ridiculous. The mind doesn't quite get that soul calling, that soul desire, that irrational part of us that wants to pursue something. The mind comes in a bit fearful. I'd even say the mind in some weird ways a bit jealous of the time and attention that we give to something that we love doing, that we're engaged in fully. Because we usually at that time we're not with the mind and its constant barrage of stories and a lot of the time lies and unoriginal thoughts. Shiny object syndrome. That's a very common one, isn't it? Getting a bit bored. It's like the relationship thing again, a bit taken for granted. You know how it's going to be each day. Got to show up, got to work in my studio, might get a bit done, might not. Working on the same bit. Suddenly this shiny new idea comes in, looking all glam, exciting, mysterious. Do we get seduced by the shiny new idea? Do we go off, start to flirt, get into a kind of tease with this shiny new object, and then basically forget about the thing that we've been, supposedly committed to, and then start all over again? Get immersed in this shiny new object until once again in the middle part of it, it's all get a bit routine, a bit like yeah, and then the next shiny new object comes on and we just hop from one thing to the next. That could be something that sounds and is familiar to you. Comparison can come in. You know, I can't do this. Look at them. They're much better than me. They're more successful than me. Comparison's a killer, and especially in the world of social media, you know, it just takes a moment when we're feeling a little bit of those doubt coming in. We can scroll social media, we can see people doing things that we'd like to be doing, and they seem to be doing amazingly well and really successful, and their work's extraordinary, and they're getting all these likes and comments and love, and we just go, fuck, what am I doing? I'm no good. We've compared our creative expression to somebody else's, and we do this a lot. Comparison Olympics, I call it. It's pretty sad. So, my darlings, where do you get stuck? Are any of these familiar to you? Any of these places? Do you get pulled by the shiny new object? Do you just get a bit bored and inspired by the familiarity of what you're doing? Do you get impatient with staying with something? Do you end up comparing yourself and lacking? Does your mind go into what's the point? Do let me know which of those seem the most familiar to you. I think for me, it's this, I think it's impatience, if I'm honest. That part of me, it's like, me and my friend used to joke with each other. We used to do it for years as a kind of joke. Are we nearly there yet? As if there's somewhere to get to. Are we nearly there yet? Oh my God, I thought we were there. We'll never be there. That is the whole point of life. So, I am going to start to share with you these 5 secrets to staying with that middle part of whatever it is that you're working with. These are things that I'm finding really helpful in myself, so hopefully they will help you too. So the first one is having a framework in place. Having a frame in place. Now, let's look at our creative energy, however we're using that, our life force energy, as a very flowing, you could say, just talking energetics, a very feminine aspect of our energy. It's moving, it's changing all the time. You can't kind of really grasp onto it. It flows here and there. It's this boundless, limitless ability to create that pours out of us. We can create the whole universe if we want to. This is wonderful. However, on its own, something happens to that energy. It can get dissipated. It can be wasted. It's not really used to its best capacity. And the reason is because it needs a structure to hold it. So if you imagine our creative energy and the project that we're doing as being the framework, whatever that project is, as I say, business, relationship, art project, something that you're training to be, we need the frame to be that structure so that there's a shape for our energy to play out in. It contains it in some way. And yet, because it's contained, strangely, then our energy almost is a bit of relief because it knows what it's playing in. It knows where those edges and boundaries are. It's more potent that way. So you see your project as the frame for your energy to play out in. Really helps to contain and control our energy in a way that we can then direct it. What else gives us support for that frame? And this is something that came up a lot when I asked the question around what helps you when you're lacking motivation. And it's one of the biggest things for me as well. It's things like deadlines. You know, maybe you're entering writing competitions, so you have a deadline. Residency applications, you've got a deadline. You're working with somebody, working with a business, you have a deadline. You're studying, you're going to have a deadline, and so on. Deadlines are bloody wonderful. What you do with that is up to you, whether you wait to the last minute to do your work, like at school. It used to be me a lot. Sometimes it still is. Or do you go, brilliant, I'm going to do as much as I can now so that I don't have lots to do as the deadline approaches, but I can look over the things then and make refinements and so on. Deadlines are really helpful. Another thing that can be helpful is creating a deadline of time. So one of the things that's come up again for people is working with others or yourself where you set a timer. There's the Pomodoro effect, isn't it? Is it called Pomodoro effect? Or technique maybe. Pomodoro technique, you set a timer. It's either 20 minutes or 25 minutes, something around that. So you do some creative work, whatever it is for that time. You then take a moment, maybe get up, maybe go and get a cup of tea, maybe have a natter with somebody. You come back, set the timer again, and you can do that many times. A lot of people use that just themselves. Other people use it and come together in groups and work with that. I found that incredibly effective. It's very interesting. You're giving yourself a deadline of 20, 25 minutes. So because you know you've got that as a structure, frame, you just get on with it. Doesn't feel like, oh, I've got a whole day to create. Oh, end up scrolling and eating everything in your fridge and so on. Co-working spaces, they're very helpful these days, aren't they? Going somewhere that is just about working, maybe surrounded by other people who are working, or creating these kind of co-working spaces online. Some friends of mine run something called Space to Create every week. 3 hours, we come together, we share what we're working on, have a little catch up, and then I think we do the Pomodoro thing, 20, 25 minutes, we stop, we just check in, and then we do that maybe, I think, twice more. Very effective. So these are different ways that we can create this structures, this frame to support our creative energy. Having an accountability partner. I used to work with a friend all throughout last year. Just started just very simply at the beginning of the year with both going, I could do with a bit of accountability, so could I. So we decided each week we would check in with each other, set little goals. Coach each other. She was also a coach. Mentors are really helpful. Coaches. Hello. Amazingly helpful. I work with my coach every couple of weeks because I need that. Someone to go, did you do this? What happened with that? Any ideas around this? So coaches need coaches too, and mentors. So these are different ways that we can apply this sense of having a framework to support us if we're not very good at getting motivated ourselves, especially in that bit more mundane, everyday middle bit. So let's have a look what I had here to write as well. Oh yeah, this is something I found online. I'm just going to read this because I thought it was really beautiful. Structure is necessary because structure and creativity have the same parentage. It is structure that enables creativity. We see examples of this everywhere. In nature, we see the fantastic diversity generated by a few basic structural elements, no more than 100 varieties of atoms and a couple of primary colours, leading to a universe of infinite beauty and diversity. In the great human creations, in the 12 notes of the musical scale, in the 26 letters of the alphabet, these fantastic structural inventions have unlocked the enormous creativity of literature and music. Without structure, there is nothing for creativity to get leverage upon. Isn't that interesting? I thought that was so beautiful. Reminds me of a story about, I think it was Hemingway. He asked for someone to give him like a really small kind of frame to work in. So someone said to him to write the most powerful 6-word poem. And what's the poem now? It was something like a child's shoe. I can't remember exactly how it goes. I completely ruined this now. But it was very poignant. It was very much kind of alluding to perhaps a child having died. All in 6 words. Potency and power just in one small sentence. Haikus. If you work with haikus, they're a great way to limit down. Flash fiction is a great way. Working on tiny canvases. Such ways that we can put in ourselves to play with if we limit our time. what is possible for us. So this could be something for you to play with. This is also, talking of structure and framework, looking at your own structure of time in your day. When do you work best? Are you a morning person? So would it be best for you to create a structure where you're creating or tending to your projects before work or before the kids get up? Are you a night owl, like me, that can sometimes wait until 10 or 11 at night and then start on the project and be immersed in that and then kind of come out of it at 3 in the morning? True story. Not very good when you have to get up for work the next day, I will say that though. So the question for you here is, what kind of frameworks or structures might support you, could interest you? And how can you go about creating or finding those for yourself? So that is the first secret, having the structure or framework. And it changes everything. It's quite incredible how much we can get done by having some of those in place. So again, I'd love to know your thoughts on this. Structures, frameworks, how perhaps do they or have they worked for you in your life? So I'm going to move on to the second secret. This one I find really interesting. This is about meaning making. Meaning making. Now, the guy who I trained to be a creativity coach with a few years ago, Eric Maisel, and is the very first creativity coach. He's written over 50 books all about creative process, a lot of stuff about adolescent schools, mental health, and so on. In one of his books, he talks about making meaning. Really fascinating. He originally trained as a therapist, psychotherapist, a long, long time ago, maybe 40, 50 years ago. And he started to see a difference between people that were coming to see him that were more creative or more sensitive or had a more open connection to spirituality and, if you like, everybody else. Started to get very fascinated by that because those people, the creative, sensitive, spiritual people, seem to have this need for life to be meaningful. It's like they were born with needing life to hold meaning. And I'm kind of guessing if you're in my group, if you like my work, if that's why you're here, you're listening to this, you probably fit that creative, sensitive, spiritual kind of prototype. Everyone else just kind of got on with stuff. So meaning making is essential if you're a creative being in whatever it is that you're doing, running through every single aspect of your life. When we have lost our sense of meaning as a creative or sensitive being, this is when we can end up losing hope, feeling lost, feeling flat, getting depressed, feeling nihilistic, the whole world seeming grey, losing our motivation or lack of spirit. And he breaks down finding meaning into 3 areas. The first area he calls a kind of greater sense of meaning, which a lot of us, I guess, would really like, or maybe we have. So it could be the gift that we have. It could be something we're really good at. It could be the work we do that just gives us so much. It feeds us enormously. It's in service, perhaps. This is the kind of bigger meaning of what we're here to do, if you like. So some of us have a sense of that. Some of us maybe are seeking that. The second level of finding meaning is kind of more the day-to-day aspects of life. Meaningful friendships. Meaningful conversations and connections with others. Meaningful relationships with those closest to us, whether it's our family, whether it's our beloveds, our children, our community. So there's more of a sense of those meaningful aspects to everyday living and the relationships that we have. So we need that aspect as well. And then the third level of meaning he touched upon was kind of the most part of life. Don't even think that's very good English. But it takes up most of our day, and it's every other moment, the kind of ordinary moments when we're not working on our great projects, when we're not engaged in deep, soulful, intimate connection and conversation. That's when a lot of us can lose that sense of meaning and spiral us away. So he asks, how then do we find meaning in a beautiful sunset, or the smell of and taste of our coffee, or the quiet time in the morning, a smile on someone's face as they're serving you in the shop, overhearing snippets of conversation, seeing children laugh and play, smelling fresh laundry coming out the machine as you hang it out, getting into that lovely freshly laundered bed at night. So it's being able to appreciate and notice these very, very everyday small moments that actually end up making our life. So when we have this sense of meaning making, if at the time we're getting stuck or challenged by our big project, we've reached a kind of gritty place in the middle of what we're doing, we can feel that part that wants to throw it all away, we can turn to one of the other aspects of making meaning. We can go and have a walk with a friend and have a good chat, have a good conversation. That often can shake things up. We can go to an art gallery and be filled with seeing beautiful paintings, go and see a concert, read a great book, listen to a great podcast. We can just go for a walk and spend time looking at flowers or watching how the water moves. We can just lie down outside and cloud watch. All of these are meaningful moments that can refill our creative well and re-inspire us to come back to that other aspect of meaning, the bigger one where our project lies, and perhaps have new and fresh eyes. For me, that's one of the most powerful ways that we can still stay in connection to our dream without throwing it away because it's not working, or we've reached our limit, or we're overwhelmed, or it's taking too long. We just take our attention away from that meaning place and place it on another, no less important. What do you think to that? I personally, I feel it's incredibly beautiful. It really can make us think about, wow, if I'm putting all my eggs in this one basket and I don't have anything else in my life, bloody hell, that's a lot of pressure on this thing. That doesn't deserve it. Nothing deserves that much pressure. So the question for you is to think about those three aspects. The big meaning making in your life. You might know what that is. You might still be curious about it. The relationships, the connections that feed you, those conversations, and then all the other moments of your life. Appreciation is a tool here to bring that meaningful, to really feel that meaningful sense. So that's the second tool, the second secret tool. So on to the third. This is when we see all of what we're doing and how we're using our life force, our creative energy, our sexual energy, all the same thing. When we see this as a spiritual practice, we see this as a practice, our creative lives as one of the highest practices in life. And in a way that means we become in devotion to that which we're doing. And that has a different flavour then, if we can have that intention towards whatever it is that we're doing, however mundane again that might seem, however far away from spirituality that might seem to us in the work that we're doing. How can we bring more of a devotional quality to our work? And when we do that, we put the intention in to humble ourselves. It means we say, look, I don't know, and I'm willing not to know. And I'm also willing to fail and to get lost and to fall down, knowing that if I stay, I'm going to learn something. It's going to build some quality in me. It's going to deepen my wisdom, my knowing. It's going to build the muscle of resilience. I'm going to understand something about this that I didn't before. And it does require us to choose that path, to make mistakes, to get things wrong, to fail. All the ways in which we, especially if we're perfectionists, can really, really shake us about. So creativity as a spiritual practice, as a practice of devotion, we talk about the word discipline. But did you know really that the root of discipline means to be a disciple of oneself, of that higher part of ourselves. So that's what it is that we're bowing to. That's what it is that we're serving. So again, there's a real sacredness to the word discipline that we can apply to all of our creative projects. They don't have to be devoid of that or disconnected from that aspect of our life. And the other thing with this, and I think this is very interesting, is that when we are really engaged with what we're doing, the project, the task, and let me know if you know this one, we drop into a state of flow. Time disappears. It doesn't have any meaning anymore. We are literally almost like we become one with the thing, whether it's our writing, whether it's painting, whether it's our music, whether it's gardening, whatever it might be. That is one of the most exquisite states to be in. I thought my computer was plugged in. It's not plugged in, so I better just plug it in before it turns itself off. There we go. So I have a theory around why we procrastinate so much before we get around to doing the thing which we actually really love. And my theory is because it's an ego death. And the ego doesn't want us to drop into this total immersion, this engagement, this flow state, because it doesn't exist in that. So it does everything it can to go, oh no, we'll do it in a bit, or oh, I'm going to go and do some hoovering first, or just going to scroll for half an hour, which becomes 2 hours, and so on. It's an evil little imp sometimes, because it knows, and you probably know this, as soon as you open up that screen, the page in the manuscript you're working at, get on your yoga mat, whatever it is, and you start and get into that flow, I know for me it's like being under a waterfall of soul food. I'm just like, oh my God, I never want to stop. Why didn't I start this earlier? It feeds us, and there's no place for the mind there. And hours can go by and magic can happen in that place. Times we totally surrender and genius comes through. Genius takes over. And that is powerful, but we have to come with the sense of, I'm a discipline of what it is that I'm putting my intention into. This is creative living in action. You know, it's in everything. You show up every day, you do the work, whatever that is. You let go of the results. This is very much in the Bhagavad Gita. You let go of the results of your work. That's a big one to look at. Am I holding on? Am I doing this for fame? Do I need this to get a reward right now? I want people to cheer me on right now. These are all stumbling blocks. Can we do the work anyway, even if no one's going to see it? That's a real question. Because it's something that's asking to be born through you, something asking to give your attention to. A bit like Kevin Costner in Field of Dreams, isn't it? If you build it, they will come. He had no idea what was going on. He just knew he had to build this. And then they came, didn't they? The ghosts of the baseball players, if I remember. Beautiful film. So, yeah. It needs, the creative process, it needs our attentiveness, it needs an effort, it needs our focus, it needs our willingness to go in. It doesn't matter what state we're in, just show up. Offer everything to that moment. Be true. If we show up irritated or can't be bothered, show up with that and then just begin. Your energy will shift very quickly, I'm sure. So question for you, how can you view the eyes of your own creative project, your own goal you're working towards, that own idea, that dream, through the eyes of this being a creative practice? Almost like a prayer that you're doing your part towards, where you're open to learning, to receiving, to not knowing. Knowing it is giving you something that maybe right now you don't know, but you don't need to know. It's beautiful, isn't it? And you can add ritual to that. You can light candles beforehand. You can say a prayer. You can just say, this is my intention for today. Very simple rituals that you can put into that time as well. Inviting in the sacred. So, that was the third one. The fourth secret here is one of my favorites, and this is having a vision. Having a vision. This one helps me enormously when I fall into my usual places. A vision is something bigger than, it's something that one aspires to, stretching towards, desires to become. So it's bigger than who we are. It's going to expand us into something that we can't see at the moment. Different to a mission. Very interesting. A mission, think about mission statements. You might have a mission statement for what you do, but a mission statement in a way is a lot more practical. It's a lot more about the what and about the how. It might have a time aspect to it. Vision is about your why. Why? This why is the very first thing that I work with clients, because without having a clear sense of your why, your bigger vision, you will give up and get lost. The thing about having your bigger vision is the sense of seeing some part of you that can see something that's not actually manifest in this moment, but you can see it. And you know that you can build that. You can see it. You've daydreamed it. You can see it in your imagination. It's there. It's ready to be made manifest, ready to be brought into form. To know why is so important. You can ask yourself, why do I want to do this particular project? Why am I building this business? Why do I want this kind of relationship and with this person? What is it that I receive when I think about this vision? How does it make me feel? What can I connect with? What does it allow in me? What does it give to me? And we can go deep and deep and deep with this. We might think we know what our why or bigger vision is, but when we get it, it's like this waking up moment. It's so clear. It's almost as if it is our soul's purpose. Fascinating. And very, very magical. Very, very alchemical when we have a connection into this bigger vision. It's a force. It's a power. It's a strength. And actually those words are from the original Latin root of vision, vis, power, strength, force. That's what we have to create what doesn't yet exist. This is the power of vision. So you can be your own creator of your life. As I say, it's an active place. It's not passive. You work on your vision. The dream is you can lie about dreaming forever. That's passive. Vision is when you start to take steps to formulate the plan, the goals, to fit inside. And it can also help when we get stuck in our, very small, microscopic way of thinking, which is all very me. It's very real, feels very real. But if we can remember our vision, we zoom out again, we become smaller. What we're doing is bigger than who we are. It can take it away from the very personal and make this into something universal. And that is power. It has a greater service. It has a greater purpose. It has a bigger meaning. So it connects with the meaning making I was touching upon before. So, question for you. Do you know what your bigger vision is? Your why? Do you know what it gives you? How you feel? What is it in you that really connects to your soul when you really sit with and feel into and go beneath and behind and beyond what it is that you are doing? What is it ultimately about for you? And as you do this, allow yourself to be surprised. So before I go into the last of our secret tools, to thank you for your attention, again, I really invite you to let me know what's landing for you, anything surprising for you, any realizations, anything coming up. And also, just to let you know that there are a few spaces left for Sunday. Sunday I'm just doing an afternoon online workshop, and it's all about your vision and your why. So this is soul board crafting. So it's like a vision board. Many of us will have done vision boards, but it is way, way deeper. So the images we then end up creating through our collaging together, in a way, don't make much sense to the logical, rational mind. They're not just pictures of cars, a garden, whatever. They're actually aligned with and resonant with that which we're aspiring to on a soul level. This is one of my most favourite and beloved workshops. I've been running for about 7 years. Incredibly potent. Things have manifested from that for many, many people that have done this, including myself. So I really, I would love to have you on board. So I say it's only for Sunday afternoon. I'm going to put the link in the comments. If you have any questions, you can obviously ask me, let me know, send me a DM and so on. If you know of anybody else that would be really interested in what I'm speaking about, or perhaps interested in doing the soul board, then do please tag them, invite them to the group and so on. I really appreciate you spreading the word. So the final secret, and this is what is really juicy. The final secret is grit. Grit. Isn't that a great word? Grit. Grit is essentially the dance of passion and perseverance. Passion and perseverance. It's about what happens when we are consistent in showing up. The consistency in our effort. Interestingly, it's not about working so hard and the intensity of that. That's not really what grit is. You could just show up for a few minutes each day, but you're making consistent little action steps towards the thing that you're working towards. You can take away the big, intense, it's got to be for this amount of hours, it's got to be this depth of work. No, not if that's not serving you right now. And it's almost like you can then surf your creative energy, knowing that every day you're doing a little something that's taking you further and further towards where you want to go. Grit. Again, it's a kind of quality that many of us have, or that we can understand more or learn about in ourselves. Do you have grit? Do you have that sense of perseverance for something that you're passionate about? Are you willing to stay with, to be consistent with something? It's a deliberate practice, deliberate steps. I think when thinking about myself this year and my business, I think actually without realizing it, I have been hooking into grit. Because one of the biggest things to me is about consistency. I did not really put those two together before. It's important to me. As much as I can, that consistency has my depth of intention, my care, my love, meaningfulness. And then there are some days when that's just not there, and maybe I'd post a meme or copied and paste something from a few years ago. I don't do that often, by the way, because I don't quite like it. But it's like, how do I just keep adding to the pot all the time? It doesn't have to be perfect, dropping that. It doesn't always have to be deep value, dropping that. I know I give plenty of value. Consistency of deliberate action, intentional action. It's a stamina. And it overrides, it's very practical, it overrides all the excuses of like, oh, I'm not talented like other people, or I don't have time. It really does override that. They just become excuses that just dissolve like dust. And there are a few aspects of this. There's a book called Grit by Angela Duckworth, and she talks about a few ways that you can invite the experience of grit into your life. So I'll just share these with you before we finish. The first thing is developing a fascination with what it is that you are striving to do. Be interested. So you might not be the most talented or skilled person, but you can be the most interested. And because of that curiosity and fascination, you'll start to daydream about stuff. You'll start to try things out. You'll start to improvise. You will stay with Ask the questions, ask the open-ended questions around how does this work? What could I try? What if I did this? And so on. So fascination for that that you're doing, especially if you've lost that interest, things have become dull. Be interested again, as if it's like a companion that you've just not really looked at for a while properly. You've taken for granted. Become interested again. Who are you now? What do you need right now? What can I give you? How can you get your mojo back? It's really beautiful. So find those questions that can help you to be fascinated again, to bring back and stoke the fires in what it is that you're doing. The second thing is, allow yourself each day to improve a little. Just a little. And as I say, with that improving, it could simply be that you're showing up for 5 minutes each day. But you're practicing as you do that. If you write a journal every day, you're practicing your writing, you're practicing the ideas machine. If you're just asking questions around something that you're learning, you're inviting that part of you, inviting the muse to join you. And the idea of this is also that you then only, in a way, competing with yourself. You're only trying to better yourself or grow from how you were the day before. It's not about anyone else. It's only about yourself as you are becoming, this constantly becoming. You just happen to be using this project that you're doing as a tool to do that, as a vehicle. Remind yourself of your greater purpose, going back to vision again. So what you're doing being bigger than you, easy to forget. When we're tired, overwhelmed, we need a bit of a break. Self-care comes into this as well. It's okay to have some time out. It's okay to have a day or two off. It's okay. But reminding yourself of the bigger reason why you started in the first place. Write it down on a piece of paper. I always say this to people. Have it somewhere you can see. And this is the last one here, and I love this. Adopt a growth mindset. So the concept of a growth mindset was developed by a woman called Carol Dweck, I think in the 80s. And she experienced the difference between people that had a growth mindset and a fixed mindset. So if you had a fixed mindset, you're very closed down. It's kind of your way or no way. If you fail, if you stumble, if you make a mistake, it's the end of the world. That's it, you're done. Whereas if you have a growth mindset and develop that, you see failing or making mistakes as part of. And in fact, the most successful people in the world, interestingly, are the ones that have failed the most, because they've had to in order to learn. Yeah, no problem, Wendy. You can just have your cup of tea and watch this again. You can stay for the end, darling, if you want to. That's lovely. So, growth mindset. What do you think is your mindset? Are you open? Are you flexible? Are you curious? Do you have that improvisation mind around stuff? Are you interested? This is all growth mindset. Or are you like, no, it's got to be like this, or it's not going to work. Oh, no, this went wrong, therefore I need to throw the whole thing out. Developing a growth mindset is incredibly powerful. It means that one of your core beliefs is that you will always keep learning. Like going back to the creativity as a spiritual practice, the bowing to what we're doing, the devotion that we use in what we're doing. It's like the chef Anthony Bourdain, that sadly died a few years ago. I love him, I'm fascinated by him. He actually said in a way that his cooking and then all the programs that he did, around the world, eating different foods and talking to different people, for him he saw his skill and ability with food was simply a vehicle for that which was his bigger vision, and his bigger vision was letting people tell their stories that they wouldn't normally get a chance to tell. Isn't that incredible? So it wasn't about his ego around, oh, look at me, I'm this amazing chef going around the world trying all these foods, knowing all these people. For him, that was simply a vehicle so that these people, these very ordinary, very much street people a lot of the time, almost invisible people a lot of the time, were the ones he sat down with and he heard their stories. I just find that absolutely stunning. And there's a lovely quote here: creatives fail, the really good creatives fail often. So what's your relationship with failure? Can you see it as a learning? So, thank you very much for your time and attention. So I'm just going to list those 5 secrets that support you to stay with. Once again, the first is having a good framework and structures in place. The second one is knowing your meaning, making meaning on the 3 levels of your life. The third one is seeing your creative process, your creative project, that which you're giving your time and energy to, your work, as your spiritual practice, as a practice to be in devotion to learn about yourself, to keep going, to bow to become humble again, to not know, to make your whole life an art of creative living. The fourth one is vision. Know your bigger vision, know your why, deeper, 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 deeper still. Connect with that, embody that, allow that to lead you. And as I mentioned, this is what we're going to be exploring and then playing out with in collage on Sunday for the Soul Ball Crafting Afternoon. It is online, so anywhere in the world you can join us. There are some places left. Do come along. The link is in the comments, or I can send you the link if you can't find it. And then the last one, the last secret, is grit. Having the sense of grit, this perseverance, this passion, this stamina, the consistent effort. So, my darlings, I would absolutely love to know your thoughts on this. There's a lot of information. We've had a good hour and a live here. Just for any of you, again, that are new, that are catching this the first time, my intention in our group is to always try and do a live on a Tuesday or Wednesday evening. I want to give you lots of value in this group. That's what you're here for. And I'm also going to say 2 things. Firstly, if you know others who would like this content, please invite them to the group. Yeah, let's bring more of you creative beauties in. And secondly, there was a second thing. Yeah, if there's anything that you want me to cover going forwards, anything aspects of creativity. I've talked about starting, this is all about the middle bit of creativity. I've said that I'll do something around how we start, what stops us from starting. But anything at all that you're stuck with, that you find challenging, let me know. Put it in comments here. Send me a direct message, because everything I want to offer here, I want it to be really supportive of where you are, who you are, and what you would find most helpful. Okay, my loves, so go well into your rest of your day and evening. Come join us on Sunday and come and play out. And thank you so much. And here's to being motivated in your way to be devoted to your own creative dreams.